Kate. It is so good to have you here. Kate Kinney is one of our dietitians for Kinema and Be Well. And then I am Brittany. I am actually the Be Well coordinator. I take care of the website and make sure that it's running and functioning for all of our members to use. And this is Kinema and Be Well's very first podcast. So we thought it was a great idea since March is National Nutrition Month to invite Kate on to speak about just some topics. And then Kate, if you want to introduce yourself,
Yeah.
a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Hello, Brittany. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. So I am a registered dietitian with Kanema Fitness. So I do some um, private counseling, nutrition consults. I do a lot of events and workshops and that sort of thing. I've been a dietitian going on 20 years now. So yeah, I'm excited to be here and kick off this new podcast.
Yay.
Yay.
All right. So nutrition is one of those topics where it's just there's so many pieces to it and it can get so complex. So
Yeah.
just kind of to break things down to some basics. One of the big topics that I keep seeing and hearing about and all that is protein. Like it's so important. Why is it so important? Why is it so hard to hit your protein goals in the day?
Yeah.
Everybody's just talking about it. It's a hot topic.
Yeah, it is a very hot topic, and protein is really important. I would say just as important as any of the other macronutrients, carbs and fat, but protein is kind of a hot topic right now. And protein is so important in the body because it really it repairs and builds all of your body's tissues. So your muscle, your hair, your skin, all of those things. It also lets metabolic reactions take place. So it's kind of think of it as like coordinating bodily functions. Um, Protein helps keep your immune system really strong. It helps with like transporting nutrients that so it's crucial. And then I think obviously people always tend to think the first thing people think of with protein is muscle
Right.
and muscle development. And so obviously it plays a critical role there in combination with strength training. So there's been recent research about protein too, and the importance of sort of spreading your intake out throughout the day, that your body uses it best. Instead of having a meal of 80 grams of protein, trying to get to those protein goals, doing 30 to 40 grams more frequently throughout the day, like making sure protein is a part of every meal, and your body and your muscles will use that a little bit better. So, and the second part of your question about macros, I actually think for people who are meat eaters,
Myself. I love
yes,
meat.
myself as well. Um, as much as I promote plant-based eating, I do think you can do a lot of plant-based eating while also eating animal proteins. Um, but anyway, I just totally lost my train of thought on that. Oh, the question about meeting your macros. So people who eat meat mostly, really do fine with meeting their protein needs. I think it's rare that people have a hard time getting enough unless their goals are very aggressive. So I really always recommend, sort of balancing each meal and snack so that every time that you eat, you are getting a little bit of protein.
Mhm.
Um, and keeping in mind too that when you eat foods like whole grains like oatmeal and quinoa and bread and stuff like that, you're still getting protein in that way too. It doesn't always have to be like the animal source. There a lot of different things in the diet contribute protein.
Mhm. So I have
So
a question because I get this asked all the time. So
yeah,
people, a lot of that is associated with muscle gain and, trying to, bulk up or whatever have you.
yeah,
Um, if somebody is struggling trying to, I guess, lose body fat, gain muscle, and they're like, oh my gosh, like I'm not, you know, what am I doing like in the gym wrong? And like, what would be a very basic general like recommendation as far as protein grams in a day goes? Like, Is there like a number like people should try to aim for? I know trying to get in every meal is essential.
Yeah. Yep. That's a good question. And I would say there isn't really one recommendation because it depends so much on somebody's their size, their weight. I have a lot of clients that are interested in weight loss, and so they might be following a 1,600 calorie diet versus, my client who's a 25-year-old man who's trying to put on muscle and he's eating 3,000 calories a day. So
Mhm.
to find, but a nice way to, if you want to get out your calculator and do a little bit of a math, there's a couple different ways to look at it. You can take the calories you have in a day and multiply it out. So about 20%, I would say there's a range, 10 to 35% of the calories you have in a day should come from protein. So that's a big variation though, from 10 to 30%.
Right.
So if you take your weight and turn it into kilograms, so your pounds divided by 2.2 tells you how many kilograms of body weight. The recommendation for kind of the average person who's not really considering, wanting to put on muscle, I usually say about a pound, or I'm sorry, about a gram of protein per kilogram of body weight.
Hmm.
1 to 1.2. So if you get that kilograms, multiply it by 1 to 1.2, and then that gives you an amount of protein, grams of protein per day. Or for somebody who is really wanting to put on muscle, doing the strength training at the gym, I usually would go, okay, let's multiply that factor by that kilograms by 1.5 to even up to 2
Hmm.
grams per kilogram of body weight. So that's a quick calculation you can do um, to get an estimate. But, there's a lot of things to consider. So,
Right.
a registered dietitian can help you with those things.
Yes, they can. All right, great. A hot topic that I keep hearing is all these supplements. Like you always see advertisements on social media and, companies trying to suck you in to buy, their product. The marketing is really, really,
Yeah,
pulls you in and tricky. And
yeah.
um, I
Supplements are
guess, yeah, like
essentially a
when
dollar.
should you take them? When should you not? Should you be
Yeah,
taking them? Just
yeah.
kind of basic
Eh,
information.
That's a great question. So, again, that kind of depends per person, but in general, as a dietitian, I'm always promoting, getting your nutrients from food, but
Hmm.
not everybody's great about doing that. Not everybody loves vegetables, or actually, I had a client yesterday who has tons of allergies and, he is eating really well within his limitations. And so I
Hmm.
actually did suggest, for somebody who doesn't think they're getting a real well-rounded, including all the food group diets, a multivitamin, kind of a standard one a day sort of multivitamin, I think can be a great backup plan.
Hmm.
Um, Meeting with the client and I feel like they're getting, all their nutrients in their diet, then I don't necessarily think that's something they need to do. A couple of the ones that are very commonly recommended, vitamin D. Most of us are vitamin D deficient or really low. So I usually do recommend a vitamin D unless somebody's had it tested and they know they're good. But I can probably count on one hand the number of people that I've seen and thought, oh wow, you're really getting enough vitamin D in your day. It's just not in a lot of food sources. So, and then somebody who's a vegetarian or vegan really should probably take some B12 because that's only available in animal products.
Hmm.
People who don't eat fish, I usually do suggest considering a fish oil because omega-3s, I should say people who don't eat fatty fish that contain omega-3s like tuna and salmon and herring. Um, the omega-3s are so beneficial for heart health, but also mind and mood and eye health and all of these things. So it really kind of depends on your food habits. Now, in terms of supplements too, there's so many different things out there, and the supplement industry isn't regulated like medication. So
Hmm.
they're usually not looked into unless somebody's having a problem or discovered a
Yeah,
problem.
and the marketing is so good.
It
Like,
is 100%. And so if a lot of times I'll have a client say, "Hey, what about this?" And I'm not familiar with that supplement. So I go
mhm,
look it up and I'm looking for on their website, what kind of testing have you done? Can you show me? data that says that the products you're telling me you put in this vitamin are really what's in there and in the correct dosage. And you haven't added extra things that are going to harm me, like lead.
Mm-hmm.
So, when it's like a multivitamin, I usually say stick with the popular name brand ones that are out there. And if it's something you've never heard of, do a little research, just look into it. There are several third party quality assurance. USP, for example, United States Pharmacopoeia, is on the Nature Made vitamins that I
Mm.
buy. It has a little USP, which is basically saying we have voluntarily submitted to this company or this organization to test our products, and they put their stamp of approval on it. So there are some of those. So you can look for those too to trust,
Right.
consider a little bit more trustworthy.
Right. Because you always see like, oh, this, influencer or this celebrity is using this supplement, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna buy it, right? Because if they're doing it,
exactly.
it worked for me. But not
Yeah,
everyone's the same.
I know it is. Yeah, it's constantly in our feeds and in our face, but just I would just look into it a little bit. That's usually what I say. Go to the website, see what you
Do
can
your
find out,
research.
do
Yeah.
your research. Yeah. Yep. And can you afford it? And, do you, you know, um, kind of assess your intake too and really think about what is your goal with taking this supplement? Not just because
Yeah.
somebody else doesn't mean you need it. So what is your goal? What are you trying to get from it? And then kind of approach it that way.
Right. All right. And then the big one, carbohydrates,
Oh, yeah.
carbs. Oh my gosh, they're so bad for me. Why is there such a negative, I don't know,
Yeah.
vibe around carbs?
Yeah. It goes back to Atkins diet and a lot of the fad diets that say that if you cut carbs out, then your body is going to burn fat,
Mm-hmm.
lose more weight. Um, and so for the recommendation for carbohydrates, everybody needs them. You absolutely need carbohydrates. Even people who have high blood sugar, diabetics, they still need carb. Now they have to be careful with how much they're eating at one time, and there are better sources of carbs than others. But they are our body's main source of fuel. Your brain, your nervous system, your kidneys, they all need carbohydrates in order to work. And I should clarify too, when I say carbohydrates, I always like to make sure that everybody knows like what are all the carbs. When I say
Mm-hmm.
I don't just mean rice
Bread.
and pasta, right? I mean, of course, those are carbohydrates, but also fruits. Most fruits are mainly carbohydrate.
Mm-hmm.
So your whole grains and your starches. Dairy, milk, and yogurt, they are great sources of protein, but they also are great source of carbohydrate. Um, and then, beans, lentils, peas, potatoes, those are good sources of carbohydrate too. And then also sugar, your added sugar, your
Mm.
sugar sweetened beverages, those are carbs. So there are ah, I don't want to say good and bad carbs because I really do believe any food can fit, but there are better ones to have. So there's a lot of evidence that suggests that whole grains and dietary fiber that you get from whole foods, it actually helps lower your risk of heart disease and stroke. Fiber helps fill you up. So for weight loss, fiber is actually beneficial. It slows down the digestive process, so food stays with you longer and you feel more satisfied on the food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it helps protect, obviously, gut health. It protects against certain cancers. Um, and there's a lot of, when you cut out carbs, you cut out a lot of good nutrients. I mean, if you're not eating fruit, oh my gosh, there's so many vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that
Yeah.
are good for your body. So, I don't like the idea of cutting carbs out altogether. Now, watching them, sure, maybe watching your portion size because carbs are easy to overdo, right?
Mhm. Yes, they are.
So, I kind of like the approach, like I mentioned when we talked about the protein, at each meal, get some good high fiber carbohydrate, get some protein. You're going to have nice balance. You're going to feel very satisfied in your foods. That's kind of my take. I
Yeah.
don't, not scary. They're not bad.
No, they're
But
not.
be
Fuel for
mindful.
your body.
Yes, exactly. Um, and especially when people, I have a lot of people who those same people that want to build a lot of muscle, they're afraid of the carbohydrate, but they're working out a lot and they're doing high intensity stuff. You
Hmm.
that carbohydrate, you're going to feel a lot better. Your blood sugar is going to be much better maintained, which helps with energy levels and irritability and all kinds of stuff. So, um, there's a dietitian can help you figure out exactly what's the right amount for you. So
Right.
they're important.
Okay.
Don't leave
Yeah. Awesome.
them.
And then just a question that I have and see is is breakfast the most important meal of the day? Question mark. Is this a myth? Is
Yeah.
it a fact? Why is that advertised? I love breakfast. I wake up craving breakfast food. It's my
Oh,
favorite food.
I love breakfast too. And I think part of that is probably because you and I both eat breakfast. So it's in us that when we wake up, we're ready for it. Because I have a lot of people that tell me, "Oh, I'm not even hungry for breakfast when I wake up." And that's because you haven't been feeding your body right away in the morning. Your body doesn't ask for food because it's used to that.
Mine
Uh,
asks for breakfast and coffee right
yeah,
away.
you're right. Key for me, but agreed. So I would say it's hard for me to say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I do think it's important, but I always think what you eat over the course of the entire day is more important than sort of when you're eating it. However, when you have breakfast, you're breaking the fast of your overnight fast and you're kind of waking up your metabolism for the day, right? So your body's going to start burning some of those calories. I find in my work with clients that people who skip breakfast tend to snack a lot more later in the day. They tend to eat more throughout the day. And when you tend to snack, it's not always the healthiest stuff. So
Hmm.
my my favorite part of breakfast is it's such a great place to get in really good nutrition. It's so easy to get in whole grains, fruit, some good proteins from like nut butters or eggs or something like that. And if you're missing breakfast and you're making up those calories later, are you getting as nutritious of food?
Hmm.
Um, so it's just a really great opportunity to start the day and hopefully help moderate your appetite for later in the day. And I will say too, because I work with a lot of people who have weight loss as a goal, research shows that people who eat breakfast are more successful at weight loss um, because it's important and you're starting your day off on the right foot. So
Yeah.
um, get your whole grains, get your fruit or veggies if you make an omelet, whatever. But getting in that balance, it's just a great way to start the day.
My breakfast plate, I think, is the most pretty and decorated plate out of all of
Yeah.
my meals.
What did you have
Breakfast, lunch,
today?
dinner. I'm just
What did
saying, it's always got like fruit,
you
blueberries, raspberries, strawberries,
Yes.
pineapple, everything, apples, whatever fruit I can throw in there.
Yeah.
Love my eggs. I do add a little bit of cottage cheese because it makes them fluffier. You've
Oh, yeah. That's
tried adding cottage cheese to your eggs?
I haven't added
Yes.
it to my eggs, but I've added it to my pancakes to make higher protein pancakes, which sounds
Oh,
weird. Um, but it's really good. So you still use like I use a whole grain flour and eggs and cottage cheese, and
right. And you
they're
can't taste the cottage cheese because everything just
no,
masks the taste. So
absolutely.
even if you don't like it,
Yeah, I don't like cottage cheese by itself, but in other stuff. And I have talked to other people that put it in their eggs. I think that's a great idea. Get a little bit more protein. I mean, I put regular cheese in my eggs. Why not? Why not cottage cheese?
right. I
Yeah.
just saw something on Instagram actually, and it was cottage cheese brownies
Ooh.
that I saved it. And I'm like, I need to try this.
Mm-hmm. I can
So,
see that. I've made black bean brownies before.
ooh, I've seen that too. There's
Yeah,
so many options.
I know. So much, so
Oh,
much you can find.
so much you can do with your food.
Right. We've actually been making doing our own protein powder here. We bought some non-fat milk powder and been putting oats in there. My kids have been doing it. It's awesome because they don't love to eat oatmeal, but it's a great way. So it's like, and then they add some protein powder too, but the milk, the oatmeal, some fruit, it's really satisfying. Right?
Yum.
Getting the balance. It's a good one to like mix it up and then head out the door and take it with you.
I know. And I love experimenting with food too. Like, what can I just experimenting with everything? I'm always on the go too, so I just need like quick, easy things to eat.
Absolutely.
And all the snacks.
Yep. I know. I know we spend more on it and it's probably not the best environmentally speaking, but like the little packs of guac and hummus and individual
Sometimes you just have
peanut
to do
butter
what you have
things.
to do.
I know. I know. But yeah,
Uh,
planning planning ahead is my mantra with all my clients. It's if you're going to eat healthy, you've got to plan ahead and have that stuff around.
yes, even if it's for like 2 or 3 days in advance, doesn't have to be, 7 days or 2 weeks out, but having those
Absolutely.
couple of days at least set for
Yep. Give
really does
just
make a
a couple
difference.
minutes of thought in advance. I always tell my clients, if you're on your way home from work, it's been a busy, stressful day. If you already know what you were having for dinner, you're much more likely to go home and make that versus in the day where you're like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what I'm going to make when I get home. You're probably going to stop and pick something up. Just,
Right.
having that a little bit of plan, um, is really key, I think, for good nutrition and
Yeah, so
be good.
helpful. Well, Kate, this was so great. A lot of good information.
Good. Yeah, this
This
is
is
kind of
good
fun.
for our first one.
I know. Yeah,
Do you
let
have
me know
anything
when.
else to add to?
I think I would wrap up with the fact that kind of how you started, how there's just so much nutrition out there and it's or nutrition information that's good and bad. Some of it's research based, a lot of it's not as you're scrolling TikTok and such. So, and it can be very overwhelming. I just stick to the basics, the foods, fruits and vegetables are good for you. You shouldn't be eating out a lot, try not to make it shouldn't be super complicated. So take a step back, if you have nutrition goals, set a couple goals here and there, work on those things, and then, kind of move on. But I think it's not as complicated as it's made out to be. So
Right, I know. There's just, I
don't let
think
it
social media is making it more complicated with all
it is
these, you know.
lots of mixed messages.
Exactly.
So
Exactly. Well,
yeah,
awesome.
but thank you so much.
Yes, we'll definitely we'll continue on with our little nutrition podcast, but this was a great first one. I hope everybody enjoys it and learns something from it.
I hope so too, and I'd love to join you again.
Awesome. Well, thank you,
Thanks, Brittany.
Kate.
Okay, have a great day. Happy
You
weekend.
too. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.